Hello everyone and welcome to the third video tutorial about the Getapper React Yeoman Generator. In this video tutorial we will go through some Material UI components. So we will learn how to use them in our projects without every time reinvent the wheel, and how to create also some wrapper around them to customize their behavior and also their styles. So first of all, let's explore a little bit the basic Material UI components. Everything we have to do, since in our project startup with the Yeoman Generator Material UI, the library is already installed, we can actually include and use as well, and WebStore will help us to import them automatically. So let's create a button without anything special, and this is it. The button has some props to change actually its behavior. So we can say it is contained and it will give a background to it. Let's put a padding to make it look nicer. That's great. And we can also specify a color. So Material UI uses a theme-based styling, and almost every component accepts a color property where we can specify if the color should be default, primary or secondary. In this case, I specify a primary button, and this is the default primary color of Material UI. If we go through themes index, here we can see that there is a create Material UI theme included and exported, and actually this object, it is imported right here, as you can see, from themes. So the theme that we are describing here, it is included in our app project that, as we know, it is containing all of our scenes routes, as we will see in a future video tutorial. So everything we have to know right now it is that modifying this object, we are actually modifying the behavior of all our project and all the components done with Material UI, of course, in our project. So these palette options, this type light, we can specify a primary. We can specify it something like, and as you can see now, our primary color, it is a red. It is a little bit too strong, so let's add also some green and blue to have something more softer. That's great. So as we said, we have also a secondary theme color, so we can do the same. Here we can specify something like this to have a blue as a secondary color. So let's go back in our dashboard. We can copy this stuff and put secondary. If we save, we have our button with our color. As you can see, there are already a lot of animations and UI made for us, so it is really great to use Material UI components. There is, of course, the website with a list of all the components that we can use, but right now we will just focus on some of them. So what if we want to standardize the behavior of a Material UI component in all our projects without having to specify each prop and maybe even some custom styling? Like if, for instance, if we want all our buttons to have more padding, we have every time to specify it like this, right? And this is for the second button. If I want to put the same to the first button, you have to copy and paste this class. So what if I want to generalize this behavior? We came out with a specific generator command that is gReact::MUI. By doing this, we are actually creating a component in the component folder, but with some particularity that you will see right now. So the standard here is to put an app in front of everything, and then to replace the name of the Material UI component. So in this case, we will put app button to actually replace, or better, to wrap the button behavior. So the UI component that we want to extend is the button, and this is it. Let's go to the components folder, and in a few seconds we will see the app button appear. Here we are. As you can see, there are some slight difference from the basic component like the item that we realized last time. For a simple component, the type item props, it is an empty object. In this case, instead, the type app button props, it is an empty project and all the props of the button. So in this way, when we try to use our app button from components, so the good thing about this is that now every props that we would have passed to our Material UI button component is being inherited by our app button. So I can specify color, I can put primary, I can even specify variant and put contained. And as you can see here, the behavior is exactly the same. So we have the hints from our TypeScript and WebStorm utility, but we have also this stuff here that is just passing all the props we are passing to the app button is automatically passed to the button. So it is a really simple wrapper. So where is the good stuff about this? Because now we are just inheriting stuff without putting anything really special. Well, first of all, we can here change our button behavior like this. We have access to the atomic styles here as well. So if we put this style right here, and we can go back here, if we create 3 buttons, as you can see, all of them, of course, it is using the same style because we define once for every app button and every app button will have this styling. Now that we have created our button and we override some of the classes, let's make it a little bit more clear, like this. Now, if we want, for example, to make a standard, the fact that our variant should be contained, we can put once in our wrapper, and from now on we can remove the variant from here, and if we save, our button will still be the contained one. So now that we saw how to override this button behavior, of course we can even override some functionality like on click, on change, or every other Material UI components handlers. But we can still see something about the style. So we saw that before that we have these objects here. So styles, it is what we can create here with the CSS in JS technology, but we have also these classes. So why we use these classes? If we go to the Material UI documentation, we can see that all our buttons can be styled, and we have different ways to do that. As we saw here, we can pass a class name, but this class name, if we inspect our button, we will see that the class name, it is reflected on the button root object, that is this one, this button here. But this Material UI button component contains also a couple of spans, that it is this button label and this stuff here that makes the animation of the ripple when we click on it. So how we can do if we want to style this button label here inside our button component? Here comes the classes styling properties of Material UI. So we can go here inside the API of the component we want to custom style. And here we saw that we can pass as a props classes that is an object. And you can see the CSS API for this button to see how it works. So these are all the stylings that we can modify for our button. As you can see here, we have this label that corresponds to this one, and it is the styles applied to the span element that wraps the children. That is exactly what we want to do. So how we can do that? First of all, let's go to our button styles. Let's create a label style. And we put, for example, we can increase the font size of 1.2 points. We can save it. Then we want our root. We can put again our padding, so we will specify in this other way. We save. So now we have 2 styles that are imported in this object. And here we can go and create the class for our button. So we will come here, we will say button, We go back to the CSS API and we see that the class button has two children, in this case a root and a label, that are the elements that we want to override. So we will write as root the styles.root, and for the label the styles.label. We save. Since we are using styles, that is the return of a hook we should put in the dependencies now. We save it, and now this class is exporting this button object. With the use memo, it is also memoized. So if we go back here, we can actually remove our class name to pass some more complex object classes. And we can put classes.button as suggested. So we can save it, and if we switch back to our project, as you can see, not only our root element, that is the button one, has the padding that we specified as the root, but also our label, it has a font size increased. And this is how we customize Material UI components, not only at a root level, but also for the inside elements. There are also specific rules that are applied just in specific conditions. So for example, this contained, it is the styles applied to the root element. If variant, it is contained. So since we are using contained, let's try it. Let's go back here. Define contained, and we can say that if the button is contained, the padding should be 30 instead of 20. We save. We should remember to pass our contained to the button class. Here nothing to change, and if we switch back here, now we can see that our button has a padding 20 root that is replaced, but our contained that is stronger as a CSS rule, and so it is applied, and as you can see, the padding now it is bigger than before. So if here again we remove our variant, so we have to specify the variant from outside. Here the button has no variant. So let's put for the first button variant outlined, and for a second one the variant contained, so we can see the difference even better. As you can see, the first button is smaller because it doesn't have the contained variant, it has the outline one, so it inherits just the root padding. Instead, this other component here that is contained, it is actually getting the right class that is overriding the previous one, and the padding is bigger. This is all for this video tutorial. So we learned how to create Material UI components, how to override it by creating specific wrappers for our specific custom project, and we also saw how to how to put some custom style to our components.